folks, welcome back to Indaba Africa. This is Chris once again. Hey folks, welcome back. Chris Wyatt Africa. This is Chris coming to you live from central Pennsylvania. Well, it's Sunday. It's the Indaba Conversation with Chris. I'm going to start labeling these live interviews in that fashion. I made a playlist that cuts the confusion, but it's a pleasure to have you all back with us again today. And I'm kind of excited about this. We are here to talk about the launch of Trevor Donjeany's new album. It's coming out. You remember that Trevor was a guest of mine just a few weeks ago. We did it on the Facebook because I was in the Gulag Archipelago for a little bit of time here on the tube. But I'm back on the tube for the moment. Who knows when that'll disappear? But today, and just in case, I'm recording it in Zoom. So we have the interview in case something happens. But today, I just want to tell you about that in just a second. Before I do that, let me play this. Trevor has an album launch coming up on the 17th of April, which he's going to talk about. But let me just play this quick advert, which I had put up yesterday, so you guys can see this and know about the event. And then we're going to talk about it. So here you go, folks. This is Trevor Donjeany's upcoming live album launch. Now, I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I'm pretty stoked to hear about this album launch. We had Trevor on. We've been highlighting his music on the Facebook here and on this tube as well, letting people know about his upcoming album. So with that, no further ado, folks, let's welcome in none other than Trevor Donjeany. Hey, Trevor, how's it going? We got you there. It looks like we got a good signal.
Yeah, you got me. Yeah. How you doing, Chris?
How's it going, brother?
I'm good. Still a little busy, but yeah.
Well, gee, I wonder why. Let's see. You got an album debuting next week, so not like anything's going on, right?
Yeah, there's a lot going on in a way. Yeah.
So this event next week on Saturday. Is it Umbilo? Is that where it's going to be? Where's that at? So people know.
Oh, it's about 10 km from South Beach, going south along Sydney in Umbilo. It's not very far away. Yeah, it's at the Rumbelow Theatre.
Okay.
On Cunningham Road. Yeah.
Well, Erica tells me she's absolutely going. I guess she's already reserved a spot. She's one of our loyal viewers and one of my moderators. But she says, tell Trevor to keep an eye out for her. Well, listen, Trevor, I'm going to apologize in advance. She's pretty short, so you'll have a hard time finding her in the crowd. She might look like a small child at one of the tables. So you have to look somebody very, so just look for Erica.
Okay. Well, was she the lady that was telling us about the meat place the last time?
She might have been. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, that might have been the case. So tell us about, what is this? Are you going to perform? Are you going to sing a few songs? Is it just going to be a ribbon cutting? How's this work? I mean, I'm not a musician.
No. There's no record company with this, so it's all no budget.
No budget. Okay. Not low budget. Not low budget. No budget.
There's no budget. So there are no free drinks and caviar. But what we've done is I've just gotten a hold of a lot of people that I've known through the years and through Facebook and stuff. So I've invited them all out, and I'm going to perform 2 sets with stuff from both my albums, the instrumental and the vocal.
Well, that sounds pretty awesome. Okay, so this is kind of a non-traditional, non-standard sort of launch. Not like the record label.
Totally. Yeah, because there is no record label.
Well, maybe we can make a record label.
There you go.
That would be pretty cool. But that is okay. Well, obviously, before we declare it a success or failure, and we want to declare it a success, we also must remember that we do have constraints in place. I suspect that COVID limitations are probably going to have an impact. You probably can't have 10,000 people there. Obviously, there's space limitations. Is that going to play a role?
Yes, indeed. So everybody that that has sent an email back to us, which has been pretty difficult getting some info from people, have to send an email with their name, full name, ID number, and cell phone number. So it makes it easier for the whole COVID process on the day. And it just takes a few minutes. And then also for seating.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because obviously we can't have 500 people. So yeah.
Yeah. So, but I suspect whatever you're allowed to have, I suspect and I hope that it is a sellout on that level. And maybe we can get some folks. Obviously, we got one rocking up already in Erica, and she is the person who mentioned the meat place. So did you check it out?
Oh, well, I kind of know where it is. Yeah. And
okay.
By the way, I saw Wyatt quite a few times.
You saw the street now, did you?
Yeah.
Well, it's we all know that it's up to Americans to educate South Africans about their own geography and topography.
Yeah. I'd seen it. I just never really took notice of it.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, well, I took notice of it for obvious reasons.
It's actually a little shortcut if you're going down, because it's a one-way down and you want to go back, you go through that.
Yeah, it's
to
kind
get
of
back
handy
onto
for
the
that.
other one.
Yeah, and if you have interest, you stop at the museum.
Yeah.
So are you excited about this? I mean, this album launch, I would imagine you're pretty stoked.
I don't know if I'm excited about it. It's just a lot of work, because I've got to check out all that vocal stuff and all those melodies and play all those solos. So it's a lot of work, and I'm not doing it with a full band because there just isn't time to do that. It's going to take a lot of time and it's a lot of detail. So I'm just doing it with the piano player that's in the band that I work with, John Selby, and I'm running the tracks that I used for the album. But I've had to spend a couple of days, a week or two ago, editing all that so that it's for live performance as opposed to the fades that you normally have on an album. So yeah, there's been a lot of work that's gone into that.
Well, I hope that those who rock up for it appreciate it. And by the way, I need to switch to my South African vernacular. I said stoked. That's an American thing. I should have said
no, stoked.
No, I should have said you're pretty chaffed.
Yeah. Well, there's that, but stoked is good too.
Yeah, but Trevor, you're pretty worldly. You've been all over the world, so you know the lingo when people use those things. But in a South African context, I need to say chaff, not stoked, and that makes sense to people.
Oh, it's okay. Like elevator.
There you go. The lift. So how's the weather down there on the East Coast?
The last 2 weeks has been pretty nice, actually. Cool. The humidity was kind of gone, except for today at some point. But yeah, it's been really pleasant, very pleasant.
Well, I mean, you guys are headed into wintertime, but I mean, I think in Durban, do they really have a winter? At least not a winter I recognize.
No, not according to me, but at about 10 degrees, they start to freeze. So
exactly.
And I go, you tried the minus 13 in Chicoutimi in Canada,
Exactly. No, it was like 21 years ago, I think. I don't think I told you this story, but I was in South Africa on a trip, and I was in Durban, and I had shorts on because it was this swing season, fall to winter time. And I was perfectly comfortable. I hopped in the car. I stopped for petrol. I think before I left town, as you climb up, there's a mall outside of town as you go up in the hills. I think I stopped there for petrol, and then I didn't stop again, or maybe it was Peter Ritz, but I don't remember. But I drove, and I never got out of the car again. And as I got up towards the Drakensberg and past Wenen, and I'm headed north, going up to the pass. You got Ruonatown National Park. But as I started to go up the highway, before I get to that pass, I don't know, 50 kilometers, something like that, it starts snowing, right? And little bits of snow are coming down. I'm like, wow, and I'm in shorts because I just came from the beach in Durban and I haven't gotten out of the car, and I'm driving, and these people are like pulling over on the side, and like, are they broken down, or all these cars? And I'm like, oh, they're worried about the snow. And I'm like, there's not even a centimeter of snow on the ground. I'm like, rookies. So I'm driving, I keep going, I climb up, I get into the Free State, up the Highveld, not Free State, and I'm climbing up, and I get to Joburg, and I go to Sandton, and I stayed like in a Holiday Inn Express or something like that. I get out of the car, and there's about this much snow on the parking lot. I walk into the desk to check into the hotel. It's nighttime, and the clerk at the counter looks at me like, he's like, sir,
what are you doing in shorts on?
Yeah, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, why? It's snowing outside. Yeah, I kind of noticed that. I've been driving it for the last 5 hours. But that was when they called the SANDF out, because all these motors got stranded on that highway near the Drakensberg and up around the pass. They couldn't get through because they had no experience driving snow.
That happens every now and again. And then people have to go through Standerton, go north and come out on the north coast and come to Durban because they can't get through the pass for 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, well, I got through it.
Yeah, just a bit. And then, of course, we don't have appropriate tires and all that kind
Yeah,
of
yeah.
stuff.
Well, also experience driving in snow and sleet and that kind of conditions. But now, to be fair, if I was driving up through the Drakensberg and Lesotho, I probably wouldn't have pushed my luck.
Yeah, well, that's another story.
That's a whole other story. Exactly. Yeah.
That's real snow.
Exactly. So let me ask this. You got an album launch next week, and we've got obviously one of our viewers who plans to go to it. Hopefully some more will get a chance to go. But beyond that, will you be setting up any kind of tour to go to clubs or concerts? Because I know lockdown is really a drag when it comes to musicians.
Yeah, it's just made everything incredibly difficult. Uh, but I'm planning to try and either solo or duo things, maybe some stuff in Port Elizabeth, perhaps in Cape Town, go out and play the stuff out there in Johannesburg.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, it's very awkward with most of the places being shut down and the limited numbers. So it makes it really hard with the budgets in terms of transport and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah, and you can't exactly, make up the difference by, say, charging people more because it's a tough time.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a double whammy, you know.
Yeah, I mean, in other circumstances, if the economy was just humming along and there was some artificial reason why you were limited to a crowd, you could at least charge a little bit more and people might be able to pay it. But in this circumstance, people are hurting, so you can't charge more.
Yeah. So, I'm just gonna have to do that kind of stuff, and I'm still kind of grappling with the whole radio station thing, because you've got to get all the program manager, and that's quite a hoop to jump. But yeah, so we're still busy with that. There's just lots and lots of things that normally the record companies take care of. So it's a whole new experience. I mean, I've known about some of the stuff, known about the launches and how that goes. But if you're an artist, usually whatever you think you were given for nothing comes out of your royalties a little later. Yeah. So the 60 grand you spent on prawns, it's going to be missing. Well, so it's a totally different approach, and even in terms of the sales of the albums, it's kind of digital. So we can, at the venue, if anyone's interested in buying it, if they want to pay cash or if they want to do the transfer into an account, and then we just release the link once the payment is through. It's very different to maybe 5 years ago with selling albums.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how it's going there, how you guys do it, but my experience has been, especially for less known acts or not the major big headliner sort of things, that when I go to a concert, oftentimes they would sell CDs, and the CDs were many times more than what you pay in the store or something like that. Of course, you don't have music anymore, so where are you going to buy a CD in South Africa? But there were more. And when I go to a concert like that, I kind of look at it as kind of like, well, that's part of the experience price. I mean, if they're going to charge me, not you, but I'm saying I went to a band called Jumbalasi. They're a reggae band out there in Seattle many years ago, about 25 years ago, and they charge like $10 for the CD. CDs were like $7 at the time. I just figured the $10 was part of the experience, trying to help the band, promote them, make some money, and I was happy to buy their CD. So what I want to say is that for people, if you go to a concert for an artist, consider buying their music or their merchandise if they've got it there, because all that helps the bottom line. And for some artists, that's a big chunk of how they make money is what takes place at the concerts. It's not sales in stores, because for people that have labels, there's a lot of overhead, and what gets to the artist is just a tiny little piece. And by the way, it's not the studio, it's not the people promoting the stuff that had the creativity to come up with the thing that really makes a difference in our lives. It's the artist. So support the artist. Anyway, that's just kind of my say on that, Trevor.
Yeah, and I mean, if you you can buy an album in the store for $7, but you're not going to have that live experience. One, and two, for many people, like when we were with Clegg, we do the merch thing and we do the signing afterwards. And it's really tiresome because he's just done a 2-hour show. You got to come out and smile at everybody and sign it. But you wouldn't get that signature normally. So, you stand in line for half an hour, an hour, but it all goes, as you say, it goes with the whole procedure at the time and the experience.
And for the artist, it's well, for the consumer, the music listener, you're right, you wouldn't get that. So that's kind of a unique thing you can get. But for the artist, even though you're knackered after doing a show, you put a lot of energy into it, and it's a lot to deal with people and sign all these things. In many ways, it's paying it forward, because you show that respect and care for your audience, and then they like you even more, and they want to be part of your music, and so it pays off in that respect.
Yeah, you have to do that. It is tiresome with the traveling and the shitty performance beforehand. But if you can, you have to do that. And if you have the merch, and also people value that. We got a lot of people that had a signed album when they still used to make records.
Yeah.
20 years before, and they proudly come with the show, you know.
Trevor,
So-
some folks are saying that your volume is a little low. Are you able to turn the volume up at all? You sound perfectly fine on my end, so I don't know.
I think I'm all the way up, right?
Yeah, I think so. Don't worry about it. We'll just make the best of it. What I'll do is I can also just edit just the interview portion of this and then upload it later on, and I can adjust volumes in there. So anyway. All right. So one of my viewers asked, he said, did you ever play at the rave at the Radio 5 concerts in Ellis Park with Juleka?
No, that was before my time.
Okay.
Before my time. You know, they did a whole bunch of stuff before that. The Ellis Park, the big Ellis Park gig, long before my time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I that's before my time too. I'm not familiar with that. At least before my time in South Africa, I should say. So, and Craig saying, he's saying Afrikaans, come now, Trevor, sing us a song there.
No, let's buy the album.
Yeah, exactly. Buy the album. Don't be a cheapskate. Buy the album. Yeah. So, yeah, but I mean, do you have any dates set up at all, or are you just going to do it as it comes? I mean, after the launch, anything at all? Any place anybody?
No, we don't. You know, usually when it's this kind of thing, people have a whole bunch of dates and stuff. But because of COVID,
Right.
I mean, we're kind of lucky with the band that I'm busy with doing these shows. So it's a little theater, and they have 2 venues in Durban, 1 in Hillcrest. It's the Rumbelow Theaters, and you know, the guy that runs it, Roland, has managed to keep things rolling from around October, whereas most other venues were closed altogether. He's got the whole COVID thing under wraps, and so trying to, I mean, even in the States, I was looking at stuff. The lady that was the tour that used to book the tours in the US for Johnny, I mean, she works for an agency, and she said, we keep on scheduling dates and then we have to throw them out. 3 months later, they're gone again, you know. So the artists are sitting at home, crews are sitting at home, the bus drivers are sitting at home. Nobody's working because this stuff just keeps on popping up, you know.
I got it backwards, Trevor. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So I don't have any dates planned, you know. It's
Okay.
just going to be as we go along. I was trying to get to do the Grahamstown this year because I've done Grahamstown over the years, you know, a good maybe 15, 20 years ago with different acts, but I'd like to go and do it with my stuff, you know.
Yeah. No, I got this backwards. Erica was saying that my volume was lower. Look, I've told people 1,000 times I have no control over this volume. It is cranked up all the way. It is not a function of my computer. This is either Zoom, the way it does it, or and I can't change it in Zoom, or it's YouTube. What I've done is I put my headphones on so that you're not coming out over my speakers, Trevor. That might make a difference now. But I can't get any louder, Marilyn. That's it. I've turned it around. Now they're a few seconds behind delay, but my microphone is turned up all the way. We've, as we discovered last night on Podbean, when I did a radio live stream on Podbean and everybody listened to my microphone, like, wow, your mic's amazing. It's just like germs. It's amazing. I'm like, yeah, it's the same microphone to the same settings on YouTube. So what I've done is I had Trevor just coming over the loudspeaker, and now I've put my earphones on, my Bose noise canceling headphones, not product placement.
There you go.
Just call me DJ Khaled. I'm going to put some Patron up here on the screen next. But product placement there. No, so hopefully that's a little bit better. But I've got it here. I'm basically screaming into the microphone at this level. All right. So my apologies for that, folks. Hopefully that's the best we can do. And I'll wear the earphones and hopefully you can hear a little bit better. Yeah. Okay. Well, listen, Trevor, I can't make any promises, but you know, I do know somebody in the music industry who's a music promoter and organizes concerts and gets venues and such. I mean, if you want, you don't have to tell me yes or no, but we could talk offline. If you want, I could maybe put you in touch and see if maybe you can get some help there. If you want to schedule any things, because he knows anybody about scheduling venues. We're already working on an Östi Dritten. That's a Swiss yodeling group coming to South Africa.
You told me about them the last time.
Yeah. So if you want, I can put you in touch. I mean, I don't know if that'll bear any fruit for either of you, but you know, maybe it might. He might be able to help you out because he's got the numbers of all the people that need to be called to book venues and things like that all over the country. So maybe Johan can help you out.
You're talking about Switzerland now.
No, I'm talking about Johan Eisel. He's a music promoter. He's also South Africa's premier illusionist. He made the four-tracker monument disappear. And when he did that, the ANC offered him a ministerial position. He was going to be the minister of tourism because he made the four-tracker monument disappear. Unfortunately for Johan, it was just an illusion. So they withdrew the offer.
I can give him a couple of things to make disappear.
Yeah, well, we have a long list of things like that right here.
Yeah, I got a lot for him to make this beer. Yeah.
Anyway, no, but we'll talk offline. But maybe it's time I put you in touch with Johan, and maybe you guys can help each other out mutually. He's worked with a lot of big acts, a lot of big names, and also a lot of smaller names. So maybe he can help out if you want to go ahead and book something possible. Maybe I don't know, Peter Maritzburg, or maybe they're in Durban. Who knows?
Yeah, that'll be great, Chris. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Chat off.
All right. Okay. They're saying it's much better. So maybe I'll stick to this when I do the interviews. I feel kind of weird wearing the earphones. It's like I'm on radio, but I'm looking at a camera. So it's just kind of weird for me. I mean, you would know what that's like. I mean, you record in the studio, you perform live. There's a difference between the two. I mean, you have to adjust in studio, don't you?
Yeah, it's different. You generally use headphones because you can't have the bleeds going all over the show into different things. So yeah, but I mean, I'm used to it. It's like working with in-ears. A lot of people have a problem with it. I just think it's the most wonderful thing. You can step 10 meters away from I don't even use an amplifier.
Yeah.
My rig is my guitar, a pack to send to the receiver, and my in-ear pack. That's it. And it's the most wonderful thing because you can dial up exactly what you want in your ears, and it stays pretty consistent from gig to gig, except for a little differences. So the sound checks would usually take about 20 minutes because the crew would go in 2 hours before, and it's just the greatest way to work. Truly is.
No, it's
no feedback.
It's fascinating if we look at the developments in acoustics and audio and performances and all this stuff, all the digitization of things that's taken place in the last 30 years. I mean, if you were a musician in the 1960s and then taken out of the 1960s and thrown it into 2020, you'd be lost, wouldn't you?
A totally different ballgame. People still drive around with a car with the band's gear in it, or 2 cars. It's when you just talk about the tour bus, that's like another world. It would be like a spacecraft just landed. I mean, what tour bus are you talking about? A tour bus was probably. I had some friends of mine who used to work in the 60s, 70s, and the tour bus was kind of this rickety old bus with some stretchers in it. It's a different ball game.
Yeah, no, I've seen some of those tour buses.
We don't have the tour bus.
You don't have any more?
Yeah, we don't have those tour buses in South Africa, but I mean, in the US and in Europe, they have tour buses like that.
Yeah, and I'm thinking what you're talking about back in the 60s with bands coming up and driving around tour bus riding with a Volkswagen Beetle or something like that. Their vans.
Yeah, it was the Combi. It was the famous
the Combi. Yeah. But that was replaced by the 1980s by the likes of $750,000 mobile homes with Dolly Parton. Huge things. Completely different world. It's like a house inside there, and people travel around. They can actually live in it at the shows.
They're very, very comfortable. I mean, some of them have showers, the whole toot. I mean, there's everything in there.
Now, we actually did a thing a few weeks back on the stream when we were some reason we started talking about recreational vehicles, and we're talking about the cost of them. Because I was somebody saying something about, why don't you just get one and travel around America? Well, I've traveled around America before, but I wouldn't do it in an RV. To me, it's a bit inconvenient. We started talking about it, and we found out there's a $3.4 million customized RV made in Austria. Who's got that kind of money? Not me.
Why so much? I mean, really?
Oh, it's got everything except the wait staff.
That's just ridiculous. This is somebody with a lot of money and no sense.
Yeah, no doubt. But people have got that kind of money to burn. They're not even looking at dollar signs. They're just looking at what the product is. Yeah. So, hey, the Brew asked a question. He says, what's the best song? I think maybe the term we want to say is, what's your favorite song you ever did with Johnny Clegg? Do you have a favorite? Ooh, tough question.
The one that got the whole room standing at the time was Great Heart.
Okay.
By the time we got to Great Heart, nobody was sitting in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the one. Okay. But do you have one that maybe that you just like better, or?
And Skettling.
Okay. Cool.
Well, they were great songs. I mean, Skettlings as well. I mean, they were just very popular songs. The moment you play those songs, people would just not sit down. We got to about 3/4 way through the show. If it was a seated kind of a show, people would be standing, dancing in the aisles and the sides. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So those 2 songs, I think.
Cool. No, that's awesome. So, with with the things you're going now, do you ever envision yourself joining another group, or you think you're going to go solo by yourself for a long time?
I've spent 40 years servicing everybody else. I think it's time to do. Obviously, I'll still work. Obviously, I still have to work with other people unless it gets to the stage where I can just do what I'm doing and make a great living from it. But I'd like to play my own music finally. I mean, on Saturday next week will be the first time in 40 years that I play my music, only my music. I've played everybody else's music all the time, which is not a problem, but it's time I did something. I have the music, so to try and play it, and I'll obviously have to do things with other people for a while. I mean, that's kind of normal unless you get to George Benson status or somebody like that. You have to do other people's stuff.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, let me ask this question. First off, that's awesome. You're doing your own stuff, and that's going to be cool. I just, you're a polished performer. You've been doing this forever, but I suspect there might be, I don't know, maybe some butterflies because you're doing your own stuff first. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, it's different because the barrels points at you.
Yeah, you're not just another oak up on the stage. It's all like, on you.
You mess up, it's cool. It's not like that. So it's you on the line. So it's different. Even though you put a lot of integrity into doing somebody else's stuff and making sure everything's good, but it's not you that they're looking at, and this time it's you. So yeah, there's a bit of pressure.
Well, I can imagine. What I was just going to say is that the difference is now is that the big difference here is that spotlight is on you.
Yeah,
it's on you alone.
Yeah.
So yeah. Hey, well, so here's a question. Is someone going to record this? I would hope they record this. And are you planning on live streaming it at all, or is it just going to be the live performance and just make a recording?
I think we're going to get somebody to shoot maybe a minute or two of each song and then stick it on YouTube or whatever.
Ah, man, you got to get somebody to record the whole thing. We got to have the whole thing.
Well, we'll speak to somebody.
Okay, cool beans. Yeah, you got to record the whole thing. I think people really appreciate it. Don't worry, if there's any bad parts, they can edit it out.
Yeah, we can just redo it in the studio.
Exactly. That's the magic of digital communications.
Keep the video and toss the audio.
So the Brew is saying he loved De La, and Eric is saying love Impy, these songs.
Oh yeah, there were so many, but De La was also great because it was the final song of the evening, and when it got to the end, it appeared that the show was done, and there would be about a minute break, and then we'd start and play the last tag of the song, and yeah, by then people were really stomping, but we always had to cue the engineers if it wasn't somebody familiar with the music, because they thought the show's done, and they would toss all the sliders, and we'd come out and no sound, Yeah. Oh, so, that was a great song.
No doubt about it. But the thing today is it's kind of weird too. Is I remember going to concerts when I was younger, and of course, people pull out the lighters for the encore, right? And that's all been replaced by the lights I just showed you on mobile phones now. It's kind of weird. Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's the same kind of concept, but it's very different than having a lighter because you can only hold that lighter for so long till it gets kind of hot. They can just stand there for 10 minutes holding these things, And so what I've noticed in concerts now is that with the mobile phones, the light stays on the whole time, getting the artist back out and stays on when they sing. Whereas with the lighters, once the artist got back on stage, that was the end of it. You let the lighter go and let it perform. And which artist really influenced you the most?
Most of the music that played at the time was from other parts of the world. So, you grew up with the Temptations, Stylistics, Stevie Wonder, Diana Ross, shucks, just go through it. That's kind of the music that I grew up with,
It's pretty awesome music. I mean, it's
still there, Chris?
I'm here. It's pretty awesome music. It's kind of music I grew up with too. Unfortunately, I don't have any musical talent, so I just got to be a consumer, not a contributor. But those are great artists. It's a pretty fantastic times, I think, in music in the 60s and 70s, even into the 80s. Really, a lot of great artists out there.
The Wilburys, it's George Harrison.
The Traveling Wilburys.
Names, yeah. Yeah, Traveling Wilburys, yes.
Yeah, no, that was Roy
all that
Roy
kind
Orbison.
of stuff.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, we heard all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, that was awesome.
Yes.
The Traveling Wilburys was
George Harrison.
It was a clever. Who was the other one?
Bob Dylan.
Bob Dylan. Yeah, no, yeah, Bob Dylan, absolutely.
Bob,
Yep.
Bob was in that as well.
Oh, he was in. That's right. He was in Traveling Wilburys. I forgot that.
You know, yes, yeah, there were 4 or 5 of them, yeah, and that's the kind of stuff that you just listen to without thinking about it. It was on the radio, all that kind of stuff, you know. So my influences have been mostly American because that's what we heard, and people went on, if they could get albums, they'd buy stuff. They would go ships, and when they'd go out to Europe or the States, they'd buy these things that you couldn't get here, you know. So kind of grew up steely to Fagan in before 1980, the Age album, you know.
Yeah. So Rudy Kitching asking a question. I don't really understand what his question is. Says, what about Ladysmith Black Mambazo? What's your question, Rudy? What about them? You never perform. I mean, obviously you didn't perform with them. They're kind of their own group there.
Oh, I think he's asking if there was an influence.
Oh.
Yes, there were. When I joined Johnny, I think I know where he's going with that as an influence. Yes, I listened to, again, it was music that was just there. So when I joined Johnny, it wasn't strange to me because I grew up in Natal and I used to go up the North Coast to a place called Zulu dancing and stick fighting, all that stuff. So I heard all that music all the time. And even in the neighborhood, you know, the guys that Johnny played. So when I joined Johnny, it wasn't a huge shock to me, to my ears. It was relatively easy to play the music because it's stuff that I understood and I'd heard.
Yep,
so
absolutely.
Mambazo was great. There were the Pakanga specialists. I mean, they were great. They really were great. The Soul Brothers.
Huh. Now, Linda van Rooyen says her
so
favorite.
I grew up with that style.
Linda van Rooyen says her favorite was Mandantsane because she grew up in East London. I'm not familiar with Mandantsane.
Neither am I.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's we'll have to check into that.
There's a lot of, there were a lot of, you know how the music was at the time. We spoke about the last time. It was different radio stations for different music, but I just heard the music all the time. It was in the neighborhood, it was in a bus or whatever it was, or it was in town somewhere. So you didn't maybe pay too much attention to it, but it was there. And becoming a musician later, it was pretty handy because I remember when Andy, I didn't go with when they went to do 666 in London, and the bass player couldn't play the Scatterling's part and a few other things because it's a really difficult style. And if you haven't listened to it, it's really hard to get to grips with.
No, I got you. So the brewer is asking,
the beats are placed in strange kind of places.
Yeah, gotcha. The brewer is asking if you had what's your biggest jazz influence?
It's a tough one because I spent a lot of time playing. From when I first started working, we used to play on the hotel circuit. So you had to play sort of a dinner set, and then we'd have some light vocals, and the cabaret would come on, so it'd be that reading thing, and then we do a dance set afterwards, which would be some of the more popular stuff that was around. So I always had a jazz thing going, but when I got to Joburg, it was probably more intense because a lot of my work was that way inclined, and the guys that I played could play bebop, and then we do sessions and we do some TV things, but it was the same band, you know. In fact, it was the same band that Bakiti was in before I joined the band. It was Bakiti, a guitar player, who was also in the early Paul Simon stuff when he first kind of came out, and Vuzi, who was the drummer, Vuzi Kumalo. So I knew a lot of the guys, but they play different styles.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's an interesting question for me.
So we play.
Sorry, because of the delay, it's kind of awkward for us right now.
Yeah.
But I was going to say that that's something that's curious for me that I haven't really taken a close look at. I remember it, but when Paul Simon came to South Africa and recorded, was that a big deal in South Africa? I always got the impression it was huge.
I think when they did it, it was kind of sort of undercover, sort of hushed, quiet. And one of my songs, "Song for Goloi," if you look at the little, I don't know if I sent you those little teaser videos. That's him. He's a blind guy, but he was a producer and a guitar player, and he did a lot of stuff at EMI and down studios was instrumental in finding a lot of the musicians for Paul to work with. So that song was actually written for him because I knew him personally.
Ah, excellent. Oh, here we go. Trevor's coming back. Let's see if we got him back now. Cool beans. Maybe he switched devices or he switched locations. We'll see if he comes back up here. All right. There he is. There he is. Oh man, the guy's a handsome oak. I'll tell you what, when he comes back, I feel like I need to go get a haircut. People don't want to watch me anymore. They don't want to watch me anymore.
You're a funny guy.
Hey, Trevor, welcome back. Oh, where are you at there? There we go. All right.
Are we good?
Yeah, but for some reason yours. Oh, I know why, because I've got something up there. Something that's what's that is that's hang on a second. That ain't right. Something's weird going on here. Maybe I have to go back to the full screen because I can't figure out what it is right now, but here we'll just do the full participants thing. All right, there we go. And there's something on zoom right crew. I don't know what it is. It's zoom left. That's weird. Sorry. I just, oh, there you are. Okay, cool. Got it. All right. I mean, I like to put the guest on as the 2/3 of the screen because that's the guest is the highlight, not me. I do plenty of time on air. Okay, you're back. Your connection is better. Did you get the hamsters spinning faster on the wheel to make that signal work?
Yeah, I had to throw a few people out.
Yeah, no, we were just talking. There's something we discovered, Trevor. You might find this interesting, but I'm one of those. I don't want to say pioneers, but one of the early adopters. Pretty much anything that's technology. I started podcasting when it first became available, way back in the day, and I stepped away from it a bit because I was just doing travel stuff. Because in the military and intelligence, I really couldn't do a lot online. And then last year, when I started my consultancy, I started a thing called All Things Africa podcast. And it was interesting to me, but then this channel just took off like a rocket. And so I put my focus here and I kept the account, but I didn't do much with it. One of my viewers kept telling me, he said, you should take your news portion of your program, strip out the video, load it up as a podcast. You'd be surprised how many people want to watch it. So I did that. And then I discovered that Podbean in the interregnum since I started and now has started allowing live streams of audio. So it's like a radio station. So last week I told people I was going to try it and I did it at midnight my time. So everybody in America was in bed. Nobody was up in South Africa. So it was me and one other person. So it was really awkward. But last night I told people for my show, I said, hey, if you want to join me, I'm going to go do a test session. We were over there for 2 hours having a conversation. It was like a party line on the phone. And I'm just thinking this would be a great way to interview people, to do it. And also maybe play some music, that sort of thing. But you might check it out. Podbean, it's pretty cool. So we could talk about more offline, but all right. So you're back. People were asking about your influences. You were talking about a lot of the music you listen to is coming out of States. And so we really, I was a bit, not shocked, but a bit surprised to hear that the Traveling Wilburys really struck a chord with you. I like them, and they were big, but they weren't huge. So it was interesting to hear that you found them influential.
Well, we did Rodriguez a few weeks ago as well, who's, I don't know if you're familiar with him. He had a pretty bad deal, unfortunately. And his biggest audiences was here in Australia. He was better known here than he was in the US. Yeah,
no doubt about it. Yeah, no doubt about it. So we were talking earlier, and then the signal started getting cut up, and I asked a question about what the plan is. And I want to clarify. You said something, and I kind of chuckled. I want to make sure I wasn't chuckling about what you said. But you were talking about you spent all these years servicing other people. It's time to take care of yourself. And when you said servicing other people, my mind came to a good-looking gigolo hanging out in a hotel there.
Well, not like that.
Well, that's just the way you said it. That's what came.
But hey, it makes money.
Hey, album sales are a little slow this week.
No, and so COVID's been a strange one because it stopped me from working like every other artist. But in a way, it got me going with this, and I probably would have just had the songs sitting in the computer like they have been for the last 15 years. So it's that, and some really helpful people. Like the studio that I was doing the stuff at, and a friend of mine in Johannesburg who's had a studio for many years and done a lot of productions. He mastered stuff, and it was like, cool, I'll do it for you. It's go back a long way. So yeah, it's pretty awesome. And it didn't take as much panel beating as it should have to get it done. It was all there. It was just putting in the time, more time,
No, that's awesome. That and it's kind of weird and perverse in a way. It's kind of like the fact that this broadcasting effort that I put in for the last year, it wouldn't have been that if it wasn't for COVID. Yeah. I would have been traveling to Africa all the time, drumming up business and doing consult, which I would have enjoyed immensely, but I wouldn't have been doing this. And so the COVID has had a lot of obviously horrible effects.
Mostly, yeah.
Yes,
but there are people that have benefited from.
Right. There are people,
I
but
remember,
there's also people that have adapted to it quite well.
yeah, with my buddy in the US, we grew up together, and we went to school, and we stayed friends for years. And he left for the States, I think 20 years ago, and he has a food business that he's been peddling for ages. And he's done better in COVID than any other time, surprisingly. You know, 20 years he's been busy with that business, and it's just been kind of making ends meet. And COVID comes along, and suddenly he's got a shop down in Tucson, and he wants to open one in Orange County or LA. He lives in San Diego, and he's got a pretty big shop there as well. But yeah,
No, it's pretty crazy. Some people, I mean, look, and this isn't a condemnation or a criticism at all, but like Patrice Motsepe's wealth has grown by 107% the last 11 months. He's obviously invested in the right sectors of the economy that we're able to take advantage or profit from what's going on. That's not a negative statement. Just, I mean, someone's going to profit in every crisis, whether it's good or bad, it's going to happen. And so It's just interesting to see that. Now, I don't ask, and we haven't had a chance to talk about this. I don't ask about immediate family. Tell my guests. I always tell them that's a rule. But someone did ask a question. It's not really immediate family. It's the next level out. So you don't have to answer this, but Bebop Williams says, was Henry Trevor's father? Or your dad. I don't.
No, he's my older brother. He's the one that's in Switzerland.
Oh, he's the one that's in Switzerland. Okay. Well,
he's the one that's.
The reason I asked is because Bebop obviously knows who Henry is. So
What's his name?
Well, it's Bebop Williams.
I don't know who that is. So my brother was around for a number of years, obviously before I even started playing, because he'd been playing from a very early age. And then in the 70s, there was a guy called Richard John Smith. I'm not sure if you're familiar. They were really huge. It was Richard John Smith, Jonathan Butler, names. Lionel Peterson and Ronnie Joyce. And so my brother was the musical director on those tours. He used to take care of all the music and everything that went with it. And there were roadies and stuff. So I've met people along the way 20 years later. And some of them even go, hey, Henry, because they haven't seen him for a long time. And they'd be, I'm not Henry, I'm his younger brother. So yeah.
Okay. Well, we've actually got to throw some congratulations out there, Trevor, real quick to Leah Minar. She says, oh my word, I just heard that I'm going to be a great grandmother.
Hey, congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations. Right there from Trevor Donjeany and myself. Congratulations
Welcome,
to Leah.
Grand.
Great grandmother. We're not going to ask about your age because, you could be a great grandmother at 50 in some cases.
Yeah.
So we'll just leave it there and offer our congratulations. That's awesome news to hear. That's really good to hear. So Trevor, this event last week, Eric asked me to ask you to mention the details. It was in the advert that came up there. I mean, I think that the only way you can get to the show is you have to send a message to that email address. Am I getting that right or wrong?
Yes, that would be the best way to do it. And then she'll pop back. She'll tell you what you need, which is your full name, your ID number, and your cell phone number. And then we group people, obviously. So what we've done is, I know a lot of the people that are coming to the show, they're old friends, school buddies, and whatever. So I know that they don't know it, but I know that who knows each other. So we put them on the same table so they wouldn't mind sitting with people. Otherwise, if it's just two people alone, we stick them on their own because they're not familiar with everybody else and the whole mask story. So that, and to comply with the COVID thing and not to make it a long procedure on the day, because you've got to do all that stuff. There's filling in the forms, taking temperatures and everything else that goes with it. So if you do it beforehand, it's quicker on the day. It takes you 2 minutes.
Okay. Now, when you started saying you're grouping people, I'm thinking South Africa grouping people.
Yeah, well, you will sit there.
Yeah, you must sit here, not there. But what you're talking about makes sense. People who know each other, be around each other, people in families because of the COVID stuff. Yeah, no, I got that. Makes sense. You don't want to just okay, you got 100 seats, so the first 100 seats get filled, and it doesn't make any sense. I got you. There's a question here from Bebop Williams again. Says, did Trevor ever play with Abdullah Ibrahim?
No, I never played with Abdullah. No, I didn't.
Okay. And Erica and Lazan's a nurse who's relocated because she had a job offer to Habaroni in Botswana. Lazan is a nurse, and Erica, they're talking about she's chasing around with a jab, I guess, for the vaccine. That's a personal problem. You guys deal with that on the side.
Chasing who?
No, not chasing you, Trevor, chasing each other.
They can chase away.
Exactly. Have fun. There's a lot of open space out there in the high veld. Feel free. But you said something I didn't realize. For some reason, I thought you were from the high veld because you spent so much time up there. But if I heard you correctly earlier, you said you're originally from KZN.
Yes, I was born in Durban.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I was born about 500 meters away from where I sit now.
Are you serious?
Eddington Hospital, just 5 minutes walk.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I left when I was 20, and I went to Lesotho for 4 years, and then Mabatu.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to, let me see, where did I go? Then I think I went to Swaziland and back to Mabatu. And finally, I ended up in Johannesburg. And then I spent 2 years down here in about 1991, 90 to 92. I was the bass player with the rhythm section that was hired at the permanent rhythm section at NAPAC, the Performing Arts Council. And then I went back to Johannesburg. So quite a bit of moving around.
So here's a question for you, because pretty much everything in South Africa is ridiculously priced because the market is small compared to a place like Western Europe or the United States, where you have so many more consumers and they could sell on volume and make the money. But in South Africa, they have to sell things usually on price to make a profit. So musical instruments tend to be very deeply personal things for a lot of performers, a lot of musicians, with the exception of those rock bands and those punk bands who used to smash all their, like the Who, smash all the guitars and everything. Obviously not a very deep tie to those items, but for most musicians, it tends to be very deep and personal attachment to it. So just curious, when you travel the world, went to Europe or you went somewhere else like that where you could get a new instrument, did you ever buy things abroad, or did you just get all your stuff in South Africa? And do you have like a deep personal attachment to any of your instruments?
Yeah, I mean, my white Squire,
Mm-hmm.
I've been playing since 1980, 82, I think. So I've been playing for almost 40 years. And then when I joined Clegg, there was this whole thing about having a backup instrument on stage. And so it was a double bag, and it's like carrying a tank on your back. So I did that for a little while, but I got the other guitar, which is like exactly the same, maybe just slightly younger than my one, the Squire, as a backup instrument. I never played it for a very long time. And then I've played it for the last maybe 6 or 8 years. And I've only just started playing the old one recently because some of the songs that I wrote in the instrumental album, I had tuned the bass differently. So it would be too much time and effort to tune different tuning. So I have that set up for some of the songs and then the regular one that I play. But no, I never for years, I never bought a new instrument. I just played the same instruments. I only bought a Marcus Miller bass about 3 or 4 years ago on the last tour we did with John.
Well, I mean, that's the reason I ask. I mean, because those things can be very personal. People really have a tie to that. And so, but you know what I'm saying? It's true, right? I mean, things are so much more expensive in South Africa, relatively speaking, particularly.
Yeah, very, very. I mean, just to give you an example, a set of strings for my bass would cost you about $10. And if you bought it here, it would be up to $600 for a set of strings. So everything's just way overpriced.
Yeah. Well, it's just, and for me, of course, the big focus is on, transportation or technology. A laptop that would cost me $600 in the US right now would be about $1,800 in South Africa for the same capability. It's crazy.
Yeah. You pay about 20, for my Mac, you pay about 20 grand.
Ooh,
for the same thing.
Man, you and those rich white people toys, man, knock it off.
Well, I've always owned a Mac, and it's just a great tool. It's a great tool. And for what I do for writing and the program it has, the Logic program, you can't run it on a PC. So I've just got it like that from my brother, the first tower that I got. And then we just kept on buying a new one, It is expensive, but the work that can be done on it is, there's a lot of things that are great about it. I've never had a virus. I've never had crashes. I've never had a bunch of things,
No, absolutely.
Other people do. Yeah. So for me, It works, but it's really hard when it's time to buy it if you're not on tour, because we buy them on tour.
Yeah. Now, Bebop Williams said it's awesome that I've got some musicians on my show. Bebop, I have lots of musicians on my show. That was one of the big efforts to focus early on, but making a connection with musicians can be very difficult. I only got in touch with Trevor and got his contact courtesy of Hani Riedel, who was very kind, who's performed with him in the past. She's a wonderful lady, and she put me in touch with him. I've had Giselle, of course, we highlight on this channel. We had Steve Hofmeyer on here last year. We've had Duprier van Heerden on here. We've had Louisa van Wyk on here. We've had, Monty Jackson recently. Monty's a great oak too. And then we've got Trevor on here. I've been in contact with Joe Black, with Brendan Piper, and a few other musicians to try to come on the program. We like to highlight South African performers as much as we can. The problem is linking up, especially if they have an agent. Agents can be real rectal bleeding. They can be a pain in the bum.
Well, I don't have one of those.
that's probably how we got in touch, because I was able to talk to you directly and you were interested. But no, it's your agent's got a job to do. I appreciate that, and I get lots of stuff coming at them from all angles. But one of the things for me when lockdown started, the reason I started the channel, honestly, I started doing videos to promote my consultancy, but I can't go to Africa, so that doesn't really affect it. But I started doing the live streams to help people overcome the tedium, the stress of being stuck with all your family 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, people you don't spend that kind of time around, and help relieve some of that stress. Because let's be honest, who wants to watch Mnet? I mean, it gets old. How much DSTV can you stomach before you've had enough? So I started doing this because people found it interesting that an American had this interest in South Africa and Africa in general. And one of the things I want to do was give artists a chance to come on, be interviewed, tell people about their music, let them know about whether they're going to do an online concert, stuff like that. And I got some positive response, but some artists just kind of stay at a distance. And what I've discovered, Trevor, is that every time it's someone at a distance, it's because I'm not talking to the artist, or the artist is worried that their label is going to be upset. So when you got a label and you've got an agent, it makes it more challenging. But I'll continue to bring artists on, and as long as he's willing to come back on, we'll have Trevor back on here in the future. And who knows, maybe a concert at some point. You never know.
Well, I think it's a really great opportunity. Had it not been for Hani and the technology and just the opportunity, I wouldn't know how to have actually gotten to you if I'd wanted to do this. So as I said, with a lot of the other things that have happened, it's been relatively easy, but I know that it's not normally like that, because this gives you a lot of mileage. I'm sure there are people that would like to do it, and if you didn't know them, or if there wasn't a connection of some sort, it would be a whole major issue. It's been relatively easy, and thank you very much.
No, thank you, Trevor. Look, getting to know you has been awesome, and I can't wait till I get a chance to pop into Durban, have some curry, and get that lovely view.
Go down Wyatt Street a few times.
Yeah, we'll go down Wyatt Street. We'll walk in a few times. Take some pictures under the sign, and then there's a McDonald's around the corner. I suppose we go to McDonald's when we're done, but and then maybe get a view out of that lovely view of Ushaka down there below you.
Yeah,
that'll be pretty cool. But the Brew asks a really good question here. He says, "Do you have a most cherished bass? Do you have one? Is there one that's really special to you?"
Well, I just, the basses that I play, they're not nothing extraordinary, but they were relatively cheap copies of the Fender basses, made incredibly well in the early 80s. And then they came out with some really bad ones after that. And being the older models, they're actually very, very good and extremely well made for the price, at the time. And with instruments, once you find something that sounds great and that has the sound that you have in your head, then you stick with it. And everybody's made a mistake of selling an instrument. I had a 1961 Fender jazz bass that I should have never ever sold. I sold it in Switzerland in the early 80s. It was a big mistake, but everybody's done that at some stage. So there have been times when I wanted to sell the basses for a reason, but I also don't chase technology, because I got rid of every pedal I ever owned, and my sound is in my hands, in my head, and in the instrument. And it's not the most highly priced instrument, but I've had, when we've been on tour in the US, people will come up and, "What are you using?" And I just go, "Just a Squire," And there are ways to get a sound out of an instrument. If you take Mockler, depending on where you play and your style and the strings that you use and what you want tonally. There are ways to get. I believe that you don't need a whole tower behind you. You can have the small. I've seen guys with the smallest amp and one pedal, with great musicality and feel, and off you go. So generally, people want a lot of stuff. I trashed everything that I had except the basses.
Mm-hmm.
One bass, one lead, a DI box, and an in-ear a pair of cans. And that's it. I mean, my sound is in my hands and my head,
No, that's awesome. That's the sign of a true artist there. The difference between a lot of people who are, auto-tune in studio these days compared to a true artist. That's pretty awesome. So the Bruce said, really quick before we wrap up here, the Bruce said that Trevor should hook up with the Kiffness and do a song. I don't know if you're familiar with the Kiffness. He does parodies. He's kind of hilarious parodies, but the Kiffness, by the way, congratulations to the Kiffness, who just went over the 100,000 subscriber mark, got his little plaque from YouTube. And so he did a spoof on that. He played Journey's song, and it was pretty entertaining, but I don't know if that's an appropriate setting for you as with the Kiffness. He does parodies, but congratulations to the Kiffness for 100,000 subscribers.
Cool. We'll get there.
Yeah, exactly. And there was Eric asked a question a while ago. She's concerned that she might be too late to get a seat. How many people can go to the event? I don't know if we've talked about how many people can go.
If she does it immediately after the show, she's in.
All right.
We're up to 64, but there are about 21 of them that still haven't done the whole COVID thing, and after asking them several times. So if you just send Dawn an email, it's dawn@eastcoast.co.za. She'll tell you what to do, and she'll book a place for you. It's that easy.
Yeah, there you go. So let's try to get those numbers up for Trevor too, folks. Those of you out there watching, especially if you live in KZN, hop in the car, take a little drive down to Durban, and just join Trevor for this. Will be an awesome experience, I think. The Jax just said the biggest loss for her was having to sell her late father's handmade Bavarian Framus. I don't know what a Framus is. She says she still regrets it, but she had no other option. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, what's happening is there were a lot of sound companies and event companies, and right here in Durban and probably all over the country, some of them shut down and have to sell their gear off. Mm-hmm. It's really that bad.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's interesting because, like, for instance, my great grandfather made pianos in Baltimore. They're a very famous line of pianos, the Knaba, which is German for boy, Knaba. The Knaba Piano Company was based in Baltimore. It was one of the world's premier piano makers back in the 19th century. And eventually they were acquired and they're longer around, but he made pianos. I had no idea. I did research in my family history and came across that and was fascinating. But yeah, it says something about the quality production of things, instruments that people cherish. And Knaba was, and if you can find a Knaba piano today, it's worth a lot.
Yeah, it's like the Stradivarius violins and the Steinway pianos and a bunch of other stuff. There really was something about the way, perhaps the time that they took to make the instruments and the personal touch that doesn't exist too much now, unless you get a guitar person that makes guitars, a luthier, to actually build you specifically an instrument for you. But that doesn't happen too much unless you're really quite big and person will do it for you, So they don't do it for me.
Here's a question. Let's get focused on Saturday, the 17th of April, when you're doing your launch for your album, and you're doing it without a record label, doing it all on your own. Are you going to be on the radio anywhere this week, East Coast radio or anything like that? Just anyone interviewing you, talking, or promoting this? If not, we need to make some phone calls.
Yeah, I think you need to make some phone calls.
Okay. All right. Let's see what we can do. I will intervene if I have to.
We got to make some calls.
All right. Good deal. We need to let people know about this. We want this to be a big success for you. So listen, Trevor, I think it was a smart idea for me to ask you to hang up and call back in, because we've been pretty much uninterrupted since you got back on.
Yeah. I think it was some interference with the internet. Yeah. So maybe a little too much writing on. So good stuff.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm kind of excited about your concert. Please, I mean, if it's possible, have somebody record the thing. Not on their mobile phone, but a real recording.
We'll try.
Okay. And I trust me, you'll get some good footage out of it that you want to use for marketing, and maybe want to load it up on YouTube or on Facebook or something like that, so people can see your stuff. And if at any chance you're inclined, or if that gets set up and you'd like to have some of it show up on my channel and cover it either live stream or after the fact, I'm happy to put the stuff on my channel to promote your music, because you are an awesome gent, and your music is amazing, and the world needs to know about you. So I'm going to do what I can to help promote your music.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that.
It's my absolute pleasure. Well, any parting thoughts before we let you go? You've been very generous with your time. I know it's been a long day and we had a little break up there, but I'll edit this interview when we're done and take out the that stuff that came from the and I'll reload it up once. That'll be tonight. Once it's reloaded, and I'll send you the link in case you want to share it with folks. But any last thoughts before we close out here and you enjoy your Sunday evening?
Well, I think we just have to hang in there as hard as it is. It's really sometimes not so easy to see over the hill, but we have to hang in there with whatever we're doing. While it's not easy to believe that there's a better tomorrow, it's the only option that you really have. And some people might not be that strong, but I don't have an option, because this is what I've done. This is what I love doing. So I've got to find another way to keep doing this, and keep the integrity and keep my passion about playing. And yeah, that's it. I don't want to give up what I'm doing now, because I do love what I do. And it's what I do best.
That's awesome to hear. Listen, I did say last word, but this is a chance to make a sale. So we're not going to say last word, because Roy, who's here in Western Pennsylvania, and I know the answer. So if you could tell it clearly, so we make sure Roy gets the right information, says, will I be able to pick up the album in the US? You can buy it digitally, and Trevor can explain to you very quickly how you can do that, because you're outside of South Africa. Can you share with that with you?
Well, you're going to get it on iTunes, Deezer, Spotify, and there's a few others, actually. I think there's one called something. I'm not too sure. Vito's dealing with all that. But yeah, those are the main ones. And I think that's the ones that people go for a lot. So Spotify, iTunes, and Deezer. And there are one or two others.
But there's also a mechanism to cut out the middleman, if they'd like to do that by reaching out to you directly. If you could send me Trevor's contact privately, and then I'll reach out to him. Anyway.
Okay.
All right. Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, and then people are still asking questions, but I'm not going to entertain those and keep you here all day, because it's evening in South Africa, and you probably need to get some dinner, because you rushed back from your engagement to come on air, and we really appreciate that, Trevor.
Hey, it's fine. I go to bed at 11 o'clock anyway.
Oh, okay. Well, then the brew wants to know what your biggest local influence was. Okay.
Local influence?
Yeah.
Musically, you mean?
Well, yeah, I would assume. Yeah.
We would assume.
Well, I mean, no. Well, okay. What was your biggest influence becoming a renowned physicist?
Okay. Geez, trying to think. Look, I got to play with a lot of incredible people, like Johnny Free. Yeah. Johnny Free was the in-house guitar player in Ronnie Scott's, and he chose to leave that and come home. He could have stayed in London, And actually, he was once before Dionne Warwick was really big. They asked him to join the band, and he was like, "Nah, I don't want to do that," not knowing that she was going to become, a superstar. So John was really an incredible guy to play with. There were a bunch of other people that it was really great to meet and to work with through the years. On the pop side, I got to do a lot of stuff with some of the stars like Rebecca, and didn't do anything with Brenda, but I kind of knew her, because we do these pop things with the orchestra. So they'd have pop singers on, and we get to play that kind of stuff. Yeah, for the most part, it was probably. And I did Gloria Bosman. I don't know if you know Gloria Bosman, and she was pretty hip at one stage. I was in a band for a while, and we did the tour of the South America. So yeah, there've been some great people around. She was a great singer.
Cool, excellent. Well, that's thanks for the question, Brew. Brew usually has some pretty good questions there. All right, so April 17th, This coming weekend, Trevor will be doing a live show with content from his new albums and launching those albums all on his own. So we're looking forward to that. Lots of work ahead of you this week. It's for those who aren't involved with what you're doing, they're probably thinking, "Oh, Trevor, just rock up at this place and start playing." Nope, there's a lot of work.
It's not like there's all the hours that nobody sees. Yeah, but you got to do it. Actually, the whole thing is about making it look real simple when it's not. It looks real easy when someone's up there doing whatever they do, but the years and the work that goes into it behind the scenes is what a lot of people don't see. They just see the bright lights,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
It's a lot harder than that. But it's what we chose to do, and so you have to do it. You have to keep good at what you do, because if you don't believe in what you do, nobody else is going to.
Well stated. But, it reminds me, I mean, it's a very, very dissimilar activity, but people just assume that, well, just send the army in. It doesn't work that way. You got to plan, you got to resource, you got to rehearse, otherwise you have a disaster when you show up. And I imagine it's the same in the music industry. If you don't do all that legwork ahead of time, then you just have a mess.
And there's still no guarantee of success, unfortunately. But, you get to choose. You can say no to it. And if you say yes, then you got to do what you need to do. And, I've kind of primed myself that in 5 to 10 years' time, when things kind of wean off, then I'm not going to be bitter about anything. Because I think a lot of people go, oh, I should have been this. And I had the opportunities that were there and that were meant for me. And there'll be a few more. And I don't worry about outside stuff and who's doing what with who, because there will be people that'll cross my path, like you, like the band that I'm with now, with whoever before. And that's where I'm supposed to be doing what I'm doing. And you kind of have to be smart enough to understand what that's all about at the time, as opposed to just a gig. It's usually things that lead to something else down the line.
Yeah, and I think this is well said. And you also, I think it says a lot about a person if you can realize at that moment, in that place and time, that this is something special and that this means something. There might be something bigger, there might not be something bigger down the road, but this moment in time is really special. When I was a young field grade officer, and I went to Liberia as a major, I quickly realized within a matter of a couple of days arriving that this was a historic moment in the history of this country. And I was in a key position, and what I did was really important. It mattered. And whether I realized or not, that I had to put my best foot forward and then a better foot forward in everything I did. And also, I was a big man on campus, Trevor. I mean, everybody knew who I was in Liberia. Everybody wanted me. I mean, I was in demand 24 hours a day, my phone ringing off the hook. But I didn't let it go to my head. I didn't get another swell. And then I left there and I went to a position that was far lower profile. Then I'm back again. But I think that I was smart enough to realize that was an important moment in time. And you said pretty much the same thing. And that's pretty clever.
Yeah. It's not easy to do, but where I'm at now, maybe 20 years ago, I didn't, just kind of passing from, but now everything has a purpose. You have to look for the purpose in whatever it is you're doing. When we're being with the Reels, the band that I play with now, there's a purpose with that. Mm-hmm. They're a great bunch of people. They really know how to do things. They're great to be with. They're organized. There's a purpose, and Dawn has been incredibly helpful with my album. She's run a studio and stuff like that. She never got involved in the mixing. It was up to me to mix. I'd sit and mix for hours, wouldn't say anything, because I knew what I wanted out of the music better than anybody else. Even if a really great guy came in to mix, I knew what my music needed more than anybody else. So there are people that are just going to cross your path that are super helpful. You got to try and see it for what it is at the time. And for instance, there was a guy that came out with a lady called Christine Sparkle in Lesotho in the early 80s. And my brother got to be friendly with the guitar player. Mm-hmm. The guitar player was the guy that wrote Devil Woman.
Ah, no way. That's awesome.
It wasn't,
that's awesome.
And we actually his name was Steve. We actually ended up going to his place in England somewhere. He had this big thing. Obviously, you can imagine if a hit like that. But yeah, so, you don't know who you meet sometimes.
Good point. Erica said that for bookings, it's dawn@eastcoast.co.za. Is that correct?
Exactly.
All right. So if you want to book for Trevor's launch next week, it's dawn@eastcoast.co.za. .co.za. And Trevor, you said something that's very important here. And there's lots of examples we can give of people who didn't make it big or those who never made it big who are fantastic. One of my favorite rock bands from the 1980s was the Michael Stanley Band from Ohio. They're incredibly talented. They had a couple of top 40 hits in the US, but they never quite climbed that mountain to the top of the charts. And they outsold the Who. They outsold the Rolling Stones at this big outdoor concert. Yeah, well, there's been called Blossom near Cleveland. It's like 100,000 venue. And every time they had a concert, they were sold out, and they outsold every band ever there because they're just that beloved in Ohio and the Midwest. And they never quite got there. And they're really talented. But the point that you made about success isn't guaranteed. It doesn't matter. Honestly, if you have the best music, the most appealing music, if people don't get a chance to hear it or know about it, you can be an amazing artist and never know about it. So let's get out and buy Trevor's songs, buy his albums, and if you can, go to his show on Saturday. And after that, we're going to kick him in the pants and get him to do some more shows so you can go out and watch him again.
Yeah, now you're talking.
There you go. That's right.
Yeah.
And so, in case you didn't know that, I've just signed as the agent for Trevor Donjeany.
There we go. Let's do this.
My fee is absolutely nothing.
Nothing with it. Yes.
Yeah. No fee. Anyway. All right, Trevor. Thanks a lot, brother. It's great talking to you again. You got a busy week ahead, as do I. I'll be working with the Workaholics this week. Your work will be a lot more interesting than mine, but maybe a little mundane, but it's building towards an exciting Saturday. So I wish you the best of luck and a good launch this Saturday.
And the same to you, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, can we get a little applause there in the chat for none other than the great, the wonderful Trevor Donjeany. Now, see, if we were on Podbean, I've got this little thing I could play applause, but I can't do that here. But I had that on Podbean last night. That was kind of fun. All right, Trevor, thanks a lot. Have a good evening and a good week this week. And I'm looking forward to your launch on Saturday.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, cheers. All right, folks, there you go. Hey, Trevor Donjeany. I don't know about you guys, but once again, I absolutely love that conversation. An interesting oak, fantastic musician. You got to check out his music. It's absolutely wonderful. Thank you all for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Thanks for the clapping you've put up there for Trevor. If you can, if you live in KZN, KwaZulu-Natal, take a chance and go down and try to book for his show and get there because you won't be disappointed. So thank you all for tuning in. Really appreciate everyone being here. God bless. Have a lovely week. Be safe out there. Watch out for yourself. Be fair. Be sure to share this interview. I will take it down. I will edit or copy it. I will edit the portions where the communication was messed up because of the bad internet connection. We'll condense a little bit. So if you want to rewatch the interview, it'll be shorter than this hour and 22 minutes. It'll be closer to an hour. So folks, check it out. Thanks a lot. We'll catch you here next time on Chris Wyatt Africa. It's a pleasure having your support for the channel. Bye.